Hey, y'all. Welcome to Louisiana's Criminalist Behavior Podcast, the podcast that takes you deep into the heart of Louisiana's history and current, most chilling true crime stories. I'll be guiding you through the darkness of these crimes and all of those involved. Each week, we dig deep on those forgotten crimes or those crimes currently happening with the underlying legends that continue to haunt us. So lean in, listen, and get ready because true crime is anything but ordinary. Stay with me as we unraveled what happened in these mysteries. Today we're on episode number 49, and this is the chilling tale of the barbershop murder. If this is your first time listening, hi, my name is Sarah Studier, and I'm your host for Criminalist Behavior Podcast. I want to thank you for listening to the show, and I really hope you enjoy it. So, trigger warning, this episode may contain content of a graphic nature, including descriptions of physical and sexual violence against adults, children, and animals. Listener discretion is advised. So, we're just going to jump right on into the case, okay? Alonzo Wiley was a Bridge City native and youngest of 5 siblings. He came into this world shining bright like a diamond, as his sister would describe. He was born on July 31st of 1986 to his father, David Young, and his mother, Helen Wiley. His sisters were of Allegra, Chelsea, and Tyra. He had 3 brothers as well, Quentin, Vernal, and Oscar. Alonzo's mother was shot and killed by her husband when Wiley was only 11 years old. Wiley was then taken in by other relatives, and he actually graduated from John Ehret High School in Marrero, and he served several years in the Navy before he obtained his associate degree at Delgado Community College, and he began working as a barber. So the family's life was forever altered in 1997 when their mother was shot and killed by her husband, Stafford Robinson. And Alonzo was living with various relatives after his mom's death, and this included aunts and other relatives. Alonzo graduated in 1994 from John Ehret High School when he joined the Navy. He served for about 4 years before he left the military, and he started working different various jobs. And one of those jobs was managing a fast food restaurant. Alonzo became determined that he wanted to actually start his own business, and he made his own way. He earned an associate's degree from Delgado Community College, and he began working as a barber. After barber school, he started working as a barber under a local barbershop in New Orleans. He was actually able to pursue his dream job of owning his own business when he opened up the Grooming Gallery with several different barbers and beauticians under his leadership. And after several years of success at this New Orleans barbershop, he then upgraded to a different location in Gretna. And this place was currently open for business. So, as I mentioned, he first opened it at one particular place, and then he changed it to the Gretna location. So he opened that first business on Tulane Avenue in New Orleans. But because Hurricane Ida came through, he actually had to close that one particular business down on Tulane Avenue, and he reopened on Lopalco Boulevard near Gretna on the west bank of Jefferson Parish. And he was actually hoping to expand to several other locations as well. Alonzo Wiley's goal was to open up another grooming gallery in Atlanta, Georgia. He was making plans to begin scouting different locations, and he was also talking about opening a restaurant called Wiley's Wings and Daiquiris. And if you know anything about Louisiana, hello, daiquiris and wings, boo. But according to a friend named Terry DeVilliers, they stated that Alonzo had really, really big dreams. And he was also known by the name of Zoe or Zomula. And Azona Wiley was Alonzo Wiley's niece. And she stated that her uncle was determined to be successful, create wealth, and leave a legacy for his family that they could be happy about. And Alonzo had a huge family. According to his niece, Alonzo Wiley, she stated the following: he poured so much love into a person that even his friends became his family. And Assistant District Attorney Leo Aaron, he stated that he wanted to be somebody, that Alonzo Wiley wanted to be somebody. And he said that you could tell that just by looking at him. He dressed to the nines. He took pride in his appearance. He was somebody. And he actually had this beloved dog that he took high pride in. And his dog's name was Money. In late 2021, Alonzo Wiley, who was 35 years old, was living at a motel at the 2200 block of West Bank Expressway. And this because he was displaced from Hurricane Ida. And Hurricane Ida hit Louisiana August 29, 2021. So this was late 2021, so roughly December 2021, that Wiley was staying at this hotel. And at this hotel, there was a person named Raymond Lee. Raymond Lee was 36 years old, and he was actually a convicted batterer. So he was into the whole domestic violence charges. He had those against him, and he was staying at the same hotel as Alonzo Wiley with his girlfriend because they were also displaced because of Hurricane Ida. On December 5th, 2021, Jefferson Parish Sheriff's Office deputies responded to a 911 call from Travel Lodge Motel. Deputies were called to a hotel after there was a report of gunfire around 4:30 in the morning. As they checked around the area, there was also, they located a male victim that was inside one of the rooms. And according to several different reports, that victim suffered from at least one gunshot wound. Deputies found Alonzo Wiley's body on the floor in his hotel room. They found him struck by at least one gunshot wound, and he was pronounced dead at the scene. He was only 35 years old. He was known as the following: Fashion King, #1 stunner, generous, dependable, loyal, handsome, and very stylish. And this was those words that people who knew Alonzo, that's how they described him. They knew him as Zomula, and he lived life to the fullest and on his own terms. He kept a smile on his face and uplifted everyone in his presence. He was the first person to call when you needed something and always the life of the party. The murder happened right before dawn on December 5th, 2021, where Alonzo Wiley was shot dead in his hotel room. Homicide investigators continue looking for clues at the scene, talking to people who may have known, seen, or heard anything to find out about who may have killed Alonzo Wiley. And they wanted to state how and why the investigation was going to be far from over at that time, because they were trying to speak to anyone that had any type of information. Anyone that was willing to share information was told to contact Crimestoppers at 504-822-1111 or the toll-free number at 1-877-903-7867. Detectives examined Alonzo Wiley's cell phone and found that his last text message was with someone named Ray. Ray, apparently in this text message, was setting up a meeting with Lee's girlfriend, who was a woman that was later discovered driving a black Jeep Grand Cherokee. That exchange through the text messages indicated that Alonzo Wiley and Ray had communicated previously. Raymond Lee lied to Alonzo Wiley, putting him at ease so Alonzo would actually freely allow him into his motel room. Once inside, Raymond Lee began trying to rob Alonzo. In the room, Lee tried to rob Wiley, but shot him during the struggle when Wiley tried to get away. Evidence in the hotel room showed that there was a struggle between the two men. Alonzo Wiley tried to get away from Raymond Lee, but was trapped, as there was an expert in crime scene reconstruction that testified to this. Raymond Lee shot Alonzo Wiley 3 times. After Alonzo fell to the floor, Raymond covered his head with a pillow and shot Alonzo 2 more times in the face. Through the course of an investigation, deputies with the Jefferson Parish Sheriff's Office found physical evidence and cell phone data that actually linked Raymond Lee to the shooting. They also conducted several interviews with all those in the nearby area. Detectives found that there was no type of subscriber information for the person that Alonzo was communicating with in those last text messages. But detectives found that through an extensive text message conversation between Alonzo and Lee's girlfriend that reported Raymond was carrying out an armed robbery against Alonzo. So surveillance video footage from the motel showed that Alonzo Wiley's car and Lee's girlfriend's car left the motel after 911 was called. Investigators got their first lead 4 minutes after the 911 call was placed, when motel surveillance video showed Alonzo Wiley's newly purchased BMW being driven from the motel behind a black Jeep Cherokee that was known to be of Raymond Lee's girlfriend. And 23 days later, after Alonzo Wiley's death on December 28, 2021, detectives actually were able to track down that Jeep Cherokee that was located in hotel surveillance video to another West Bank hotel. Raymond Lee was in the vehicle and his girlfriend was in the room at the motel. In that room, detectives actually found a bag of 9mm ammunition that was actually from 2 different manufacturer companies. The 2 identical brands were spent bullet casings found at the same Alonzo Wiley murder. And detectives also found a necklace and sunglasses that were likely always known to be worn by Alonzo Wiley. Detectives recovered from the motel room Lee's iPhone, which had the text message exchange with Alonzo Wiley. So detectives found Raymond Lee's cell phone in the hotel room, and that cell phone still had the messages with Alonzo Wiley. They discovered the following inside of the hotel room: a video in Raymond's iPhone of the 9mm pistol whose serial number was discernible, a necklace and sunglasses resembling those that Wiley had worn, and Raymond Lee's phone, which evidence that had those text messages with Alonzo Wiley. Also on the phone was a video showing a 9mm pistol with a serial number linked to Wiley's niece, who had loaned it to him. So, through the serial number, detectives linked the firearm to Wiley's niece, who purchased it and allowed Wiley to carry it. The pistol was reported stolen after Wiley was killed, and the gun had been reported stolen between December 5th and 28th. And evidence on Raymond's phone showed that he actually tried to offload it. Raymond Lee was trying to offload it, according to all that evidence that was found on the cell phone. After detectives were able to plot Raymond Lee's whereabouts on the morning of Alonzo Wiley's murder, they actually did this through the cell phone and cell phone towers. Raymond Lee was in the immediate area of Alonzo Wiley's murder, refuting that his alibi was stated he was at New Orleans lakefront at the time of the crime. Detectives used cellular technology to show that minutes after Wiley was killed, Raymond Lee directly drove to his mother's home in eastern New Orleans. Raymond Lee's girlfriend's phone revealed the identical travel data as Raymond Lee, but she was not involved in the armed robbery and murder, so she was actually never charged on that. However, I do believe she should have got a fucking accessory to the fact or whatever. On the morning of Wiley's murder, she actually used her phone to search for information about the crime on the internet. And she later read about it on a local news website. And this was where the sheriff's office digital forensic unit was able to find this information. Prosecutors said that she wasn't involved in a fatal armed robbery and she wasn't going to be charged. Officials with the Office of District Attorney Paul Connick Jr. said a Jefferson Parish jury found 38-year-old Raymond Lee guilty of second-degree murder, obstruction of justice, and a felon in possession of a firearm on Friday, February 2nd, 2022. Following his arrest, Lee also admitted to texting and meeting with Alonzo Wiley, but he denied killing him. He also denied being at the scene, and he contradicted that cell phone tower evidence. His attorney stated that this was a circumstantial case and accused the sheriff's office of fabricating evidence. Raymond Lee was convicted also of obstruction of justice for intentionally removing the 9mm pistol he used to kill Wiley to hinder the investigation. He additionally was convicted of being a felon in possession of a firearm. He was barred from possessing firearms because of that 2019 conviction of second-degree battery he had in the New Orleans Parish Criminal District Court. Jurors that were seated and only deliberated for 3 hours before they found Lee guilty as charged. And Judge Michael Mintz in the 24th Judicial District Court was scheduled to sentence Lee on March 7th of 2024, which was not that long ago, right? Since today's December 31st, 2024. Raymond Lee was sentenced to life in prison without parole or suspension of sentence for the second-degree murder charge, 40 years for the obstruction of justice charge, and 20 years for the convicted felon in possession of a firearm. So all in total, let's add that up, he was sentenced to 60 plus life, okay? His conviction of killing his conviction was for killing the Barber in the West Bank, and this was at the West Bank motel room. Judge Michael Mintz also sentenced him, and he ordered the sentences to be served concurrently. At that time, in the wake of Hurricane Ida, this is when Raymond Lee and Alonzo Wiley were residents at the motel, and he tricked Alonzo to letting him into the motel room. And Jefferson Parish Sheriff's Office detectives built a circumstantial case tying Raymond Lee to the crime through the cell phone technology, physical evidence, and statements around the passerbys. And apparently, the jury thought that was enough information to convict him and sentence him to the life plus the 60. And there was a letter written by a cousin that was handed to the prosecutor about Alonzo Wiley. And it said the following: "Our family hasn't been the same since he's been gone, as he was one to light up every party and every conversation. To everyone on the outside looking in, he was a barber and a businessman, or even just another name on the docket. But to us, he was a protective cousin, a fun uncle, a supportive brother, and a loving son." And there were a lot of people that depended on Alonzo, according to the cousin. The cousin also stated, "We need him. He made us happy. He made us laugh. He made us better. He did not deserve to be a victim of such a senseless and heinous crime. Our lives are forever changed from the good times that we had with Alonzo, but we are still feeling the emptiness from his murder." In addition, Alonzo Wiley was charismatic. He was a fun-loving giver who poured himself into his family, his friends, and his businesses. And that generosity that has left who knew Alonzo Wiley at 35 puzzled by the news that he was shot and killed at a Harvey hotel on December 5th because of an armed robbery. And Wiley's niece, Azona Wiley, who was 27 years old at the time of this statement, said the following: "It was senseless. If someone needed something from him, he would have given it. Even if you robbed him, you didn't have to kill him." Wiley's relatives and friends say they don't know Raymond Lee and aren't sure how or if he knew Alonzo Wiley prior to this armed robbery. Authorities have not divulged evidence that linked Raymond Lee to the killing, while Azona Wiley says she and her uncle's friends are left with a big question mark. Why did this happen? And they stated the following: "We know Alonzo's soul is resting, but his family and friends will always remember his positive energy. His life will never be forgotten, and memories of him will never dim. His barber shop is still open till this day, and they're doing that to ensure that his memory be passed on." If you enjoyed our show, please rate and review us on any of your podcast apps: Apple, Spotify, YouTube, Wondery, iHeart, wherever you listen to your podcast. And make sure to come back for our final episode of season 1 called The New Orleans Black Widow. And that will be our last episode of season 1. Until then, this is your host, Sarah Studier. And again, don't forget to like, share, or subscribe. Rate and review us on iTunes, please and thanks. And y'all have a wonderful night. Happy New Year's. Bye.